Hello everyone, welcome to our interview with Summit speakers. Good to see you all here. Ana Maria Gonzalez and I'm John Forrester, are going to be doing some interviews with Summit speakers on the breaks. And the first two we have here are Marshall Goldsmith and Russell Bishop. And these two guys have known each other for a long time. So I'm going to do my best to stay out of the way because they'll have a great conversation and bring up all kinds of things between them. We'll start it off by asking Marshall, what about coaching? You talked to us earlier about active questions and daily questioning. Tell us about coaching and how you're approaching that these days.
In my role as an executive coach, I have a very unique billing system. I don't get paid if my clients don't get better. Better is not judged by me or them, it's judged by everyone around them. And really, what I teach my clients to do is first they get feedback to pick what's most important, then they practice something called feed forward. And I teach them to constantly ask for ideas, to listen, to learn, to thank people, to not promise to do everything but do what they can. And I'm really a facilitator. About 90% of what my clients learn, they don't learn from me anyway. I facilitate them learning from everyone around them, which is really the way of the leader of the future. In the future, leaders manage people that know more than they do, and they have to learn to ask and listen and learn from everyone around them. So that's really what I do.
Ah, okay. And Russell, right before we started, you were talking about pretending to know to not know. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, in my experience, and I think parallels Marshall's in many ways, I doubt that we rarely give anyone advice as much as we ask questions. Because the person who's dealing with the issue already has within them the source of the answer. Sometimes we pretend not to know something we do know. That leads to trouble. Equally damaging is to pretend to know something, the imposter phenomena, and try to act as though it's true. Neither one of which is very valuable.
Right.
So asking a question and following that up with another question, to be a coach, I think, means to be truly curious and to help the person discover his or her own set of answers.
As opposed to, I've got all the answers and I'm going to tell you, and then you'll pay me lots of money. And
I'd like to say, I have a lot of advice. I haven't been able to make it work. Here, you try it.
Do as I say, not as I teach.
Yeah, one of my great coaching clients, Alan Mullally, the CEO of Ford, and he went there, the company was losing $17 billion. And he asked people, the top 16 people, give me your top 5 priorities, red, yellow, green. 80 priorities, everything was green. And they're losing $17 billion. So he said, well, we're losing $17 billion, it's all green. Maybe we should do it again. Finally, somebody said red. He stands up and applaud. Then he said something very different. He said, you're lost, it's okay. He said, I want to assure you, I'm the CEO of the Ford Motor Company. I know less than you do. And that's okay too. As opposed to 95% of this, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Then they go do these dumb things. The leader today is not superior or smarter than the people being led. They know more than the leader. You can't just tell them what to do and don't make bozo suggestions.
In the book that I wrote, Workarounds at Work, the theme is just 3 concentric circles, and in the center is control. And the question to ask anyone is, what difference could you make all on your own that requires no one's permission other than your own? Marshall's lead question every day. The second question is about influence. What difference could you make if somebody else were on board, and who? And finally, what's happening in the environment to which all you can do is respond? And I found over the many years, if I don't answer the first question first, what difference could I make? It all's going to fall down. But if I do what I can to say, hey, Marshall, here's the issue, here's what I've done on my own, could you participate? Then he's going to want to be engaged in something out of his own creativity. What difference could you make?
Right.
And then what could we do together? So it becomes a discovery process, not an advisory process or the 12 rules tacked on the wall about how we conduct business.
Right. Great advice. Yep. Okay, here's another one. You've both been doing this for a number of years here, and you've seen a lot. Is there anything that was true, is still true, that you think people need to be reminded of, that's we all need a little refresher sometimes. Anything that you often find that people need to be reminded of, even if they've already heard it before. And the next one after that, and feel free to combine these.
Too many questions. The first question is, I think we have an excessive need to reinvent the wheel. What David does, a lot of that was developed 30, 40 years ago. It's still fantastic. Paul Hersey's situational leadership, it still works. Well, sometimes we don't do things because they were invented 40 years ago, but they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think it's very good to be open to new ideas. It's also very good to be open to old ideas, because sometimes these old ideas are great. I'm a Buddhist, and a lot of what I teach is basically Buddhist philosophy that's about 2,600 years old.
So you don't have anything fresh.
And when I created Insight Seminars, we call it the awakening heart, not the awakening mind, body, emotions, but something that awakens was previously asleep. That's obvious. Equally obvious, but never thought of, something that's asleep was previously awake. So our whole approach was, let's ask questions and allow the person to awaken to themselves. And then people would say, oh, well, you took this from Esther. I says, no, you don't understand. It's older than that.
Yeah.
We didn't invent anything. It's just packaging. But sometimes people don't ask those questions in the morning, so they think there's a new process.
Right.
And I always like to tell my business clients, hey, strategies don't work, people work strategies. Processes don't work, people work processes. You better focus on your people or it won't matter.
Yeah.
So awaken.
Right. It ties in what you were saying earlier about instead of looking to what the organization can do to engage me, what am I doing to engage myself with the organization and with my own life?
Yeah, and I think it's very important to look in the mirror and say, what can I do? There's a great question to ask yourself. Peter Drucker said, we're here to make a positive difference, not to prove we're smart. And a great question is, am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? If the answer is yes, go for it. The answer is no, just let it go. Why?
Yeah.
Don't waste your life on what you're not going to change.
Right. Yep.
And at the end of the day, the real question to ask people when we ask, what do you want, is what experience are you looking for? And if we can distinguish between the thing we focus on and the experience we're hoping to have, we may find we can produce the experience right now. And in the process, produce the thing, but the thing won't matter if I have the experience I'm actually after.
Well said. Well said. Well, thank you both. This has been wonderful. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Marshall.
All right, thanks. Next up, Anna Maria will be doing another couple of interviews, and we'll see you back soon.